And we should be live. Welcome back, nerds and turds, to another live stream repair. We've got a pretty easy night for us with 3 HomePods that need to get fixed up. First one's from Ricky, second one will do Agnius, and then the third one will be Todd. I don't actually know what's wrong with any of those 3, so we're going to go ahead and check our email really quick, let them know their HomePod is here and we're about to get started, and figure out what we're fixing tonight. So first one from Ricky. Let's see what they had. Probably no power. You can guess no power and you'll be right 9 times out of 10. Oh. Let's see, so they've got loud, very loud popping. So they're probably going to need new filters. Let's go ahead and let them know we're getting started. Okay, Ricky has been notified. Who's after that? We've got Agnius. And theirs. Looks like there's no sound at all. Okay, looks like that's just no power actually. Yep, that looks like to be no power. We'll let them know it's here. Okay, and then the third one was from Todd. HomePod still has bass. After it heats up, it starts to hiss and crackle. When music is paused, it hisses for about 5 seconds and then stops and then starts crackling. When unplugged, it has a loud pop. So, okay, interesting. Sounds like we've got 2 HomePods that need new filters and one with the usual no power issue. Let's let them know it's here. And we are ready to get started. Here we have it. Let's open something up to drink. Make sure that's all focused. So, first things first, we're going to check our symptoms, of course, with a known good power cable. We're going to plug that in. And of course, right, so this one's got DC offset, so of course it's going to power on without a problem here. We'll wait for it to boot up. Once it finishes powering on, we will wake it up, which will power on the amplifier inside. Just like a side note, when it first boots up, it's in standby mode, so the amp doesn't turn on once it first turns on. You have to actually do something to actually kick it out of that standby mode. You could connect to it via AirPlay, you could trigger Siri, you could tap the top of it, whatever works.
I'm having...
Oof. Oh boy. That is a pretty severe pop there. So that is usually a sign that the filters have gone pretty far gone. That's those little capacitors on the amplifier that filter unwanted DC voltage from going through the amp before it gets pumped into the speaker. So eventually this can kill your subwoofer. This can cause death farts. So let's get it apart and see what's going on from the inside. Nice. Very good. This one's coming apart very easy so far. We're going to drip a little bit of rubbing alcohol on the perimeter of the subwoofer basket here. That's going to work a little bit of magic on the adhesive that holds the basket down. When we go to pry it up, it'll be a lot easier. Subwoofer check. We want to make sure, especially when we're dealing with too much DC voltage being generated by the amplifier and sent to the speakers, we want to make sure that our speaker is still in good usable condition. So we're looking into the port there to see that the voice coil still has a nice even copper color to it, which it does. And then if we push down on this gently and straight down, it feels nice and smooth. And of course, if we give it a good sniff, we don't smell anything burnt or like a warm electronic smell. Actually, what we can do before we take this apart any further is we can go ahead and do a little bit of diagnosis here, since we've already got everything together enough here. We're going to scooch this over here, plug in our subwoofer from the bench here. That's also connected to our multimeter that you see up on the screen there. So we can basically take a peek and see exactly how much DC voltage the amplifiers are generating whenever we're testing them connected to this subwoofer, which always gives us an idea of how good or bad those filters are. So let's turn this on. Very good. Give that a sec to boot up and we'll see what it's got. Oh boy, 500 millivolts, or half a volt now. So that is a pretty significant, what the heck? That is a pretty significant amount of DC offset or DC voltage being generated by the amplifier and sent into the subwoofer. Most people in the audio industry, if you Google around for DC offset, generally agree upon 50 millivolts as being the maximum acceptable amount of DC voltage getting out and into your speakers. So 10 times that amount, and quickly growing as they continue to warm up to operating temperature under load. So that pretty much confirms what we need to see and what we think we need to repair and replace. Let's get this amplifier out, and we will replace the filters or the capacitors that filter the DC voltage and tend to go bad and allow this to happen. Hey, Agnius, welcome to the chat. Welcome to the stream. Okay, screws have been unscrewed. Hinges are unhinged. amp is out. Let's flip this around, get up close. And there they are. The usual suspects for this DC voltage making its way to our speaker. Our filtering capacitors right here, these big 4 brown ones. So we're going to go ahead and replace all 4 of them, even if only one of them may be bad, for a few reasons. Number 1, it's seemingly not reliably easy to really test which one of them are bad. If you pull it off the board and you check its capacitance or its resistance, they usually check out, even if they're going bad like this. So it must be a sort of failure under load kind of thing, where they get bad the worse they, they get worse the hotter they get. Another reason why we just replace all 4 of them at the same time is because we don't want to be mixing and matching parts. We have no idea what part number or what part Apple used here, other than they were 10 microfarad, 16 volt, size 1206, temperature rated X7R capacitors. We have no idea anything other than that. So we replace all 4 of them whenever we replace these with a full new matching set. Keeps things balanced. And also, if there were a bad batch of these caps, then we may as well replace all 4 of them instead of just leaving potentially the other bad ones around. Not quite as common as the no power issue where that diode fails. That one's the most common. We see that happen all the time, so that's why we replace that diode every time. Not so much with these caps. Could be. It could continue on for many years without a problem, really. Only time will tell. Unless you take it apart. Alright, that's not fun. What's going on? There we go. That's much better. Look of the diode draw. Very good. Okay, and then we're going to flip the board around and we're going to replace the Schottky barrier diode. Like we mentioned earlier, we replace this part every time because of the failure rate. Regardless of the date code that the diode has, and regardless of whether it's still working or not, we replace it every time we take your HomePod apart. So this one actually has a date code of 1742K. It's a little older than what we normally see fail as part of those bad batch of diodes. But we're going to replace it anyways. Alright, we're going to give this board a sec to cool off before we test it out. Like I was saying earlier, heat, even with perfectly good brand new capacitors, heat is going to reduce their effectiveness. So if we go and test this board right after replacing those caps and heating them up, it's going to look like they're not doing their job as well as they should be. So we want this at least like kind of warm, ideally just like room temperature so it can warm up to operating temperature and you can watch the difference. Slightly warmer than room temp is okay too. Really, you should wait 24 hours to check it if you want to be absolutely perfect about it. Depending on how much heat you put those caps through, you may need to wait that 24-hour period for them to settle back in. Just how the way that they're actually made up, their crystalline structure, I believe, is the reason why if you heat them up and keep them at a certain heat for a certain period of time, this is actually how you refurbish. This is how you can actually bring capacitors that have naturally decayed over time back to spec again, is by reheating them to a certain temp for a certain time and then allowing them to cool down for a few days, and bada bing bada boom, they're good as new again. We don't do that. We just buy brand new caps. We're not going to be doing that with those. Okay. We've still got power. That's always good to see. Yeah, like 1 year, 2 years isn't enough of a warranty to me, in my opinion. 1 year isn't enough. If you're such a large company like that. Okay, so our offset reading is now around 14 millivolts. So that is a significant improvement from the 500 millivolts that we saw previous. and also under that 50 millivolt target that we always try to aim for. So this is ready to put back together. Let's do that. I almost feel like, in general, a product's warranty should scale with its cost or its retail price. I don't know if that's got too many what ifs or problems with that, but that kind of seems kind of fair to me. Like, if you go and pay $50 for a Bluetooth speaker, don't expect hardware warranty support out of it for more than a few years. But if you're going and paying $300 to $500 for a Bluetooth or smart speaker, you sure as hell would want more than a year guarantee that it'll work fine from the manufacturer, yeah? Unless you're fine with replacing them every other year. But then it's like, oh, what about cars? Cars are so expensive, so like they would have to have like really long warranties, like 5-10 years. Good. They should. Cars should last more than just a few years. Why is it that my oldest car is the one that still drives reliably the most? And I've put a $100 eBay turbo on the thing. Actually, the thing's like 40 years old now. Oh, it's gonna bankrupt the company because they gotta do more. Well, maybe they shouldn't make their shit break every fucking year. Oh, Mr. Leahy, you're in reverse. Krell amplifier that worked fine for 20 years, but now it needs a bunch of parts. I'd have to take a wild guess and say it probably needs new caps, because caps go bad over time. That's just how they are. But I might be interested. I absolutely love taking on new projects. But what I do need to know is what's wrong with it, and then if I can actually fix it. So if I know what's wrong with it, I can hopefully hop onto Google and search and see if anybody else has had similar issues and published any repairs for that or documented anything for them. If there's no info out there, then the chances do go down, but they don't go to zero. I mean, we figured all this stuff out for the HomePods. Why can't we figure it out for other stuff, yeah? Hey, Russell got his HomePod back. Very good, very good. I've got a Yamaha Avantage, like A70, something like that. I can't remember the exact model number, but I do remember the main reason why I snagged that was because it still had a phono preamp input for my record player, and I didn't want... Honestly, I just wanted one less box in my entertainment center cluttering things up, so having the preamp built into the AV amp is nice to have. But what I was getting at was I needed to take the thing apart and see what's going on with it, because it's been working flawlessly ever since I got it, but about a month ago, I was sitting on the couch with the kid watching The Walking Dead, and I had paused it, and somehow ended up sitting on the remote, and the volume had turned itself 100% all the way up. And I didn't notice this, so I went to go hit play again, and it just absolutely blasted all of us with just full volume Walking Dead for a few seconds until I got my bearings and was able to turn it back down again. Ever since then, every time I turn the amp on or off, it pops. So I think I blew the I think I must have damaged the filters a little bit there with that little snafu. So I got to take it apart sometime and see if I can figure out what the hell I did to it. Any chance you could pass them? Oh yeah, no, this is the Miniware ES15 motion control electric screwdriver. It's quite expensive on Amazon. I have seen the exact same screwdriver under a different name being sold for much less on like AliExpress. So if you're feeling patient and want to take a chance, you can save quite a bit of money there. Otherwise, this is the ES15 Miniware electric screwdriver, and I think it's like $100 on Amazon or something like that. I probably never would have bought it myself, but one of our previous clients had bought not one but two of them for us to have as a spare, and been absolutely hooked to it since. My favorite thing about it is, as you see, it's got USB-C, and you can actually use it while you're charging. I cannot do that, surprisingly, with Big Bubba. He does not like to be charged and used at the same time. He only does one or the other. Kinda sucks. By this one, you're good to go. And it's much faster than I could ever be at putting these screws in. Is swapping the top touchpad as easy as you make it look? Could I put a white touchpad on a black one? You can absolutely swap, quite literally, any part between two different first-generation HomePods. Any of them will swap around without any compatibility issues. It's maybe not quite as easy as I make it look. You got to be careful going around when you're prying this top plastic off. We're not prying it up. We're not doing any sort of prying. All we're doing is we're going around and cutting through the adhesive that's holding these two pieces together. And it's going to take a few trips around until it pops off on its own, but it will eventually do that. So that's how you can typically avoid cracking this or damaging it trying to get it off. But be patient. If you want, you can also dip your tool in a bit of rubbing alcohol as you go through. Make it a little bit easier to cut through it that way as well. But my channel's YouTube banner actually has a white and black HomePod with the tops swapped between the two. I've used those, I think, for at least a year now as like my front stereo pair in the living room. Those were some of the first HomePods I'd ever fixed. Is it pretty easy to reattach? Yeah. So basically, you'll see how we do it here in just a sec, but essentially you just warm up, gently and carefully warm up both parts with a hot air gun, or like a hair dryer. Don't overheat them. They're plastic. They very easily melt and deform. But once you get the adhesive nice and warm, it'll make it nice and sticky again. And then you just have to line it up by eye when you set it down. There's unfortunately not a real like trick to it other than lining this side up and then lowering it down, trying to keep it lined up until you commit to it. Oh, and if you scratch the bottom, it's not usually the end of the world. There's 2 layers of paint on there, so you can scratch through the first layer without it showing through. On the white ones, it'll show up if you scratch through both layers, but if you scratch through both layers on the black ones, it's not as noticeable. Let's see if it works. sorry about that. That took way longer than I expected to open up the next one, but let's see.
I'm having trouble connecting.
Sounds great. Volume buttons light up nice and even, so we will leave this plugged into power overnight to give it a good thorough test and make sure it doesn't have any outstanding issues. Meanwhile, we will move on to the next repair from Agnius, and I believe theirs has no power. Let's update the name on the screen. And get to testing. First up, with a known good power cable, we'll see what happens. Okay, so we see no response, no lights or anything. And our kilowatt meter here says we're pulling 4 to 6 watts of power from the wall. So that's usually what we see with the most common no power failure mode. When that diode on the amplifier shorts out, prevents everything from powering on. So we're going to crack this open and do a quick little diagnosis to confirm our diode is the source of our short or no power issue. And we'll have this powering on again in no time. A little bit of that alcohol. Let's see. Our woofer looks good, feels good, smells good. Happy little subwoofer. Round 2. What do we got? There's the usual suspect for our no power issues, our Schottky barrier diode, and this one has a date code of 1746K, which is within the range that we normally see failing. So let's confirm it's actually dead. Yes, it is. Let's get that replaced with a not dead diode. Grab a brand new one. Far outside of the range of ones that we normally see fail. Very good. Let's give that a second to cool down. And actually, I've got right here Right here. A 100 more diodes. I know you guys like to listen and watch, so we're gonna do it. Oh, focus. There we go. Nice. Yeah, people keep talking about chip shortage, and I have no idea what they're talking about. So I'm glad that that's not affecting this. I think most of these have been already made. Actually, we can actually tell by the date code. This one, brand new one, was made back in. Show me your secrets. So this one has a date code of 2144K. Not sure if you can see that. There you go. So that was made in 2021, week 44. So, and those are brand new. We just bought those. I need to get my hands on like a semi-serious microphone, because I guess the one that I have right now is pretty good. It's a Yeti Pro, but I feel like there are better microphones out there that have come out since the Yeti Pro for how much I paid for it at least. But I'm willing to spend a little more for a microphone that would give people better audio. If you guys have any suggestions, feel free to let me know. I am looking. Or if you think the Yeti Pro is going to be probably the best that you can still really get your hands on for under a couple $100, then I'll stick with it. Seems to work pretty well. Let's see what we got. We got power. We'll let it finish turning on, and then we will see what its DC offset reading is. Okay, so we've got an excellent reading of less than 1 millivolt. So this is ready to put back together. I would consider switching to XLR. I don't have an XLR interface right now, so I'd need to get one on top of the microphone, which is probably pushing the budget at that point. But I don't know. Maybe getting an XLR microphone and then piping that through an XLR to USB interface to my machine is going to sound better than just getting a straight up USB microphone. I couldn't really tell you. I trust you guys. The one that I have does work pretty good, but when we started our live streams, we started with an iPhone 11, and it worked pretty good. And I'm sure we wouldn't be much any different where we are today than if we still used that. But a few months ago, I stepped up and got the Sony Z. What are you? ZF-E10. You camera nerds know what I'm talking about. And oh my god. Okay, yeah, the iPhone 11 camera is pretty good. It's pretty good, and it's gonna get the job done just fine. But there is a noticeable difference in video quality with my Sony camera, and that's kind of what I'm looking for with my microphone. Yeah, the Yeti Pro is pretty good. Maybe even it's great. But I'm looking for that next step up without spending too much money. You could also put... Ooh! That's not a bad idea. So maybe I should actually get... Maybe I should get like a wireless mic, like a mic that I can just wear on my chest for talking. And then I actually use the Yeti Pro. I just put it up on my desk here, pointed right at the table. And that'll pick up the sounds, because the Yeti Pro seems to do really good at picking up the small sounds. But I'm not a huge fan of how voices come through on the Yeti Pro. Oh, but see, how would I get it to sound good with me talking at the same time? Cuz wouldn't the desk mic also pick up me talking? And like I'm sure, yeah, I could sync the audio up and there wouldn't be an echo, but wouldn't it still sound weird? So I would have to mix the volumes every time I'm switching between talking and desktop. I think that's not too bad. I could do that. What do you think about using canned air to cool down the heated parts? Except you turn it upside down and hit it with the Freon. Yeah, I feel like that might be cold shock risk there. Like, I couldn't tell you definitively whether that's okay to do or not. But I probably personally wouldn't bother, especially when you can just sit there for like 30 seconds to a minute just waving the board in the air with your hand to cool it down. I wouldn't waste such expensive product on cooling it down a few seconds faster. Let's stick it back together. It's Jeff. Welcome to the stream. Jeff has been in and out of our streams here for quite some time now. Also fixed a home pod for him. Should I get the new HomePod? If you're not super keen, like super duper sensitive on the difference in sound between the old and new ones, you're gonna be totally happy with the new ones. Especially with the new hardware that they have, they're gonna work more efficiently with your smart home if you use Siri or anything like that. They're going to last a lot longer than the first generations with their newer hardware. But if you're looking at it purely from an AirPlay speaker perspective, like me personally, I'm not going to go out and replace all of my first gens with second gens. I'm going to keep stocking up on first gens and building up my home audio system that way. I'll scatter second gen HomePods around the house here and there. And I'm going to actually disable Siri on all of the first gens, so that way whenever I want to use Siri for any HomeKit or smart stuff, a new second gen HomePod is going to respond instead of any of the older first gens. Let's see, let's just make sure it sounds okay. Sometimes it takes a second.
I'm having trouble connecting to...
Alright, and volume buttons light up nice and even. So, Agnius is also ready to go. That's going to bring us to our third and final repair for the day. This one's from Todd, and it's also got some DC offset symptoms. So we're gonna get that box here and take a look. Okay. We gotta take a sec to appreciate the, I have never seen anybody put the power cable back into the box as perfectly as Todd has here. Props to you, Todd. The power cable on both first and second gen HomePods are removable. But the first generation HomePod is not a standard power cable. It's proprietary, and it also requires a little bit of force to remove and reinstall. The second gen HomePod uses a standard figure 8 power cable that many people have just laying around their homes. And it's also a lot easier to remove and plug back in. So, if you lose your power cable for your second gen HomePod, you can very easily source a generic replacement if you don't want to pony up the money for an original. Okay. Oh. Okay. Yeah, that's as loud as who was that? I think that was Ricky. Yeah, we started off the live stream today with Ricky's with the same symptoms, and that is just as bad. So let's get it cracked open and do a little bit of testing to see what's going on. Probably the same problem, of course, with those filters going bad, which allows DC voltage through the amp and into the speaker, producing that popping sound, and over time cooking the speaker, producing death farts, what have you. So, yes, Apple used fewer tweeter speakers in the second gen HomePod. However, they are newer, more efficient tweeter speakers. They use neodymium magnets instead of the old ferrite stuff in the first gen. They also directly fire down onto the table and then off, reflecting towards you. Whereas the first gen, it has to bounce around a little bit before it hits the table and towards you. So you get a more direct sound, which is evident in a lot of the sound tests you listen to online. The new gen sounds cleaner, crisper, more direct, but at the same time it still feels like it has like slightly less power, like less just raw oomph behind it. After 3 years, are you able to fix HomePod second gens? I don't see why not. We're just going to have to wait and see what problems come up over time, what parts we can use to repair those problems, and what parts we can get our hands on. I mean, give it less than a year at this point, and I'll probably start fixing second-gen HomePods, because that's when they'll start falling out of warranty. Hopefully, before that point, I'll be able to get my hands on some broken ones, start saving up on parts, doing some testing, because I really don't want to waste the money breaking new HomePods just to dick around with them. I'll try to wait until other people break theirs first, and then I'll buy their misfortune off of them. But it will be our fortune. What's wild is they appear to have used a significantly more powerful amplifier for the bass speaker in the second-gen HomePod. If I'm understanding correctly, if we saw the model number on the chip correctly, it's I think it's a TI Texas Instruments 3255 amp. And that thing pumps out 10 times the power that the amplifier of the first-gen HomePod had. So I'm certain they're not actually using all of that power, but rather the idea is, and I'll use cars as an analogy here. So imagine the first gen HomePod's bass amp as a 4-cylinder Toyota Corolla engine, and the second gen HomePod's bass amp as like let's say like a nice Audi with like a 3-liter turbo, bigger engine, more power. And to get the same, so like let's say that the Toyota Corolla can produce 190 horsepower and the Audi can produce 400 horsepower. When the Toyota Corolla is producing that max 190 horsepower or whatever it can make, it's working a lot harder. It's going to be doing a worse job doing it. It's going to be less efficient. It's going to be running hot. It's going to be cranky. In the Audi, meantime, that's like half its power output. It's barely breaking a sweat doing that. It could do that all day. That's kind of like the first gen and the second gen HomePod's bass amps. The bass amp in the first gen is a lot weaker, and I feel like they're pushing it a lot harder, which over time is causing failures. With the second gen HomePod, they've got a much bigger amp in there. It can push a lot more power, but they're not using that extra power. They're still keeping that subwoofer at probably around 30 to 50 watts, as opposed to like I think it's like a couple hundred watts that damn chip is capable of. It's nuts. So the fact that they're running it at such a low power output relative to what the chip can actually do, it's going to run a lot cooler, it's going to be much more efficient, and it's going to last a lot longer. Not to mention they put a little heat sink on it, so it's got a little bit of cooling going for itself too. Read the giveaway video description for details on the giveaway. All the details you need to know for the giveaway will be in the description for the giveaway. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, what's this giveaway? I'm giving away a first generation Apple HomePod to one of you who have subscribed and left a comment on our giveaway stream that we held this last Sunday. So head over to my channel, go to the live tab, and you'll see our Sunday stream where we just did a quick stream repairing a bunch of HomePods. But if you leave a comment and subscribe on that video, that's going to enter you for a chance to win this HomePod. And we'll dye it any color that you want from its lineup. we're going to be actually giving, we're going to be drawing, we're going to be, we're going to pick the random comment from that video this following Sunday. We've actually scheduled the live stream for that ahead of time. So again, if you head to my channel, go to the live tab, you should see the upcoming live stream for this Sunday where we pick that winner. Check the woofer. Looks good, feels good, smells good. An old man has appeared in the chat. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. I see damage. The resistor next to the subwoofer connector is completely blown off. So, based on that, we're not gonna plug this into our subwoofer speaker and put it through more than it needs to go through here. We know what we need to do. We're going to jump right into replacing what needs to be done here. First up, our filters. This is going to be the exact same thing that we did with Ricky's HomePod at the start of our stream. So, first up, our filters, and then that Schottky barrier diode, and then, there's the resistor next to the subwoofer connector that we'll take care of actually after these caps. 7 amp diode is still looking good. No fires. Good to see. Good to hear. I need to get my hands on the PD-S560Q with a slightly higher forward voltage rating and see if that causes any issues. Oh, dude, I was the same way. I loved watching Lewis Rossman and Northridge Fix and what's the other one? Tronics Fix. I loved watching those guys do board repair. But I never thought that I would be really doing it myself. And then one day I said, heck it, let's just give it a go. Golden. Oh, not quite. Let me move that other cap down a little bit. Just a little too close to those tiny ones up there for comfort. That'll do. There's where the resistor should be. So let's prep a new one. Get that taken care of. Yep, you're correct. It's a surface tension thing. If you're using enough of the enough good flux, then it's gonna do that pretty much every time. It does all the hard work for you. It's amazing. I always thought it would be way more difficult than it really is, and I always wondered how they did it. How they do this? Let's cover up that connector there before we forget. We don't want to melt the plastic on there. So when the filtering caps go bad and they allow DC voltage through the amp, parts like this don't expect to see that extra DC power coming through them. This is a guess. I don't know for sure, but my best guess, because we only see this resistor pop off the board when those caps go bad and too much DC offset's a problem. So I think it's when those caps go bad, too much DC gets through, and it blows that resistor off. When it blows that resistor off, usually I see a blown subwoofer too. But they got pretty lucky this time. They sent it in before it had a chance to get to the subwoofer and break it. Okay. That's looking good. It's just giving this a second to cool down. Okay. What's it got? No, it's okay. I missed it. Oh. Okay, that sounds great. Our offset's also looking great. So this board is ready to put back together. So basically what you're saying is Apple should have gone with the Q part in the first place. Avoid the bad batch of them. I wonder if that extra process for the Q part, I wonder if the same, like, if they would have had the same problem as the non-Q that we see the bad batch from. Like, I wonder what caused this bad batch of diodes. And if that was the same, or if that could potentially have been the same problem with the Q ones. I guess I could just reach out to Diodes Incorporated. They're the ones who manufactured these diodes. I could just try reaching out to them and just kind of playing dumb and being like, hey, I have a bunch of these diodes and we're seeing a large failure rate with date codes X through X. What's going on here? And see if maybe we can get any information out of them. Because we sure haven't been able to get any info out of Apple. Yeah, you don't want you don't want your freaking $1 diode failing and sending your fucking $100,000 car with you and your family in it off a cliff. They might have a non-disclosure agreement with Apple. However, that's where playing dumb comes in, because anybody can buy these parts from DigiKey, Mouser, I'm sure even through Diodes Incorporated if you've got a big enough order. Anybody can buy these parts. And at the time, anybody was also able to buy these diodes. So I could be literally anybody that bought a large number of their diodes and am seeing this failure. Like, I'm not going to say anything about what the product is. I'm just going to simply, I have a large number of these diodes where I see this date code failing. Was there a known problem or bad batch or anything like that? And hopefully Apple isn't ahead of it and they didn't, like, pay them to stay quiet about it. And be like, yeah, we know that this is a problem. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone else. I'm not accusing them, but I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it's under spec because again, when we pull these diodes off, we replace that diode every single HomePod, regardless of the issue. And so today we had 3 HomePods, 2 of them with DC offset issues with diodes that still work fine, and then the one with no power with a bad diode. And wouldn't you have it, yet again, these 2 HomePods with DC offset issues had diodes that still worked fine with date codes far outside of the 1746 to 1748K range. Yet again, the one with no power, I can't remember if it had 1746 or 48K, but we still only see those ones failing. So if it was an underspec'd design, after the 500 plus HomePods that we've gone through, I would have expected to see any other date code failing by now. But that's not the case. We still see it. Yeah, no kidding. Well, speaking of the kids' college fund, leave a like on this live stream. 1 like equals $1 towards their college fund. So like today. Invest in the kids' future. And maybe one day they'll be fixing your HomePod too. Fun fact, I never went to college. I never even finished high school. I dropped out and got my GED. My wife is more formally educated. She's got some college. And you can tell, too, the way that she talks. And I cannot win an argument with her. Oh, look at that. I gotta give $7 up to the kid now. At the end of the day, I think it's whether you're getting something out of it or not. Like, I would not absolutely suggest you to just go out and drop out of high school, get your GED, and not take any college. But me personally, I wasn't getting any more out of it. To be fair, I wasn't really putting a whole lot back into it in the first place. And there were also life circumstances that kind of forced me to do it. But it all ended up working out pretty well. And I got out and into work a lot sooner than a lot of my friends were. They were in college and I was working, and by the time they graduated, I had 8 years of experience already. Now that I've got the work experience, now I want to go to college and supplement my knowledge. And also just get a lot of fundamentals, because there's a lot that I missed out on. You think reduced bass sounds better on your HomePod. I think there's no such thing as too much bass. But I'm not an audiophile, so. Something that's interesting that Apple does with and this is the theme with a lot of their audio products, is at lower volumes, they don't proportionally change the volume of the bass levels as the mids and treble volumes, and that's because bass frequencies can travel more easily throughout a space, whereas treble has a harder time penetrating. So at lower volumes, I lost the thought. I have to use the bathroom, and now I'm getting antsy. I think it had something to do with basically Apple doesn't adjust the bass and treble volumes equally as you turn the volume up or down. They do something a little funky there because of the way that bass versus treble actually travels through things. The Fletcher Munson curve. Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You are a sound engineer, that's for sure. That's a hungry sounding baby. Just in time. We're finishing up here. What's it got? Well, of course the power's on. It powered on before, so it's going to power on now. Unless we were a goofball putting it back together. Which, that's happened. Alright, what do we got?
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
No significant popping.
I'm having trouble.
Sounds lovely. Volume buttons light up nice and even. So that's it for today, folks. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here and now in a quickety-lickety split while the kid is, well, the kid's kidding around. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you're looking for more info or my contact info, be it repairing it yourself or sending it in here on the channel, check out the website, nixfix.com. Head over to my channel's live stream tab where I've got a upload from the past Sunday doing a giveaway for a custom first-gen HomePod. Check out the details for how to enter, and stay tuned for the stream this upcoming Sunday where we pick a random comment on that video to give it away.